Good, but yeah, kicking off episode number 13. Unlucky for some, and it might be unlucky for us if we get interrupted by the little man tonight. I've got a special guest on the podcast. Is my friend Ben Gladden, who is a fully qualified PT, runs his own company. He's also a long-time Marvel fan, and wanted to get him on the podcast not only just to talk about his business, which I think is a topic that's very important at this time, obviously, given that we're coming out of lockdown. Loads of people, including myself, have probably put on tons of weight and are looking for ways to get back on their feet and get back to being active. But obviously also wanted you to get on to talk about our mutual love of superhero movies, which I'm sure we'll move on to before the end. But mate, good to see you. How have things been for you, with regards to the pandemic and stuff, and what changes did you have to make when things really went to shit?
Well, I mean, thanks for having me on first, though, mate. I've been very honoured to come on to this. I think it was at first. It was almost like it felt like a movie. Do you ever see that movie, like Contagion? Contagion.
Yeah.
And then it was like done like 8 years ago. I think, oh man, that'd be scary, but it never happened. When it actually happened, I think it was more the shock factor than anything else. And obviously, Helen being made redundant, and then thinking, Christ, how am I going to transition to online training? Because I'm very much an in-person trainer. Like it seems very like everyone's going on the bandwagon of doing online, and I was very apprehensive of it, really. I think, God, do I need to go on a course and this, that, and the other? I still had some loyal clients who, obviously, we had to wait till the dust settled. Some people were like, can we still talk online, like a FaceTime? And I was like, yeah, sure, I don't mind, And in my experience, like when I did it at first, I was thinking, how's this going to work? But then Zoom has been around, and we'd have meetings and this, that, and the other. And I just continue with there. And it was quite nice because I'm still in the room with you, not physically, but I was able to still coach to a degree. Obviously, I would always prefer to be in person with someone coaching, because one, I think there's an energy when you are in the room with someone, or you could just set something up while they're finishing a set, and you keep the momentum going. It's a lot of instruction, and I found not being around computers all day long, I now understand when people have got like a desk-based job on a computer, why they're so mentally fatigued. Because when I was doing Zoom, I was thinking, I'm exhausted just by looking at the screen as well. So the transition from when it first hit to going online and stuff like that, I was lucky enough, I kind of fell into it in a way. So that was great. And then lockdown one kind of went away. And we were so lucky in that lockdown though, weren't we, mate? Like, because the sun was amazing. The weather was incredible. Yeah. So I think if it weren't for the weather, there'll be a lot of more mental issues going on. Like,
I think we've noticed that this time around. The fact that it's been over winter this time has been an absolute ball ache. It's interesting you touched on the with regards to people's mental well-being with office stuff. I was just listening to an episode of Joe Rogan, who I don't listen to too much anymore, because he's got a lot of people on there who like deny COVID exists, or they're anti-masks, and them kind of people. I haven't got time for it. So, but he had Tom Segura on there recently, who's a great comedian, and he's a pretty cool dude. So I was listening to them, and they were saying that actual suicides last year in America really plummeted during the first lockdown. And one of the reasons that it became painfully obvious to me was, obviously we were worried about suicides going up, but I think at the start, when everyone was able to not have to commute into an office, to sit at a bloody desk for 10 hours a day, to be stuck in a little cubicle somewhere or anything else, I think that really, really was beneficial for a lot of people. And the whole work from home thing, even if you are still stuck at a desk, at least you have the freedom to make your own decisions, your own time, as long as you've got a good boss. Like, I mean, there were some days where I wouldn't start work till 5 p.m. and I'd finish at midnight, because that's what I wanted to do,
Yeah. On your scale, on your time scale. Yeah,
exactly. I didn't have to deal with a commute. I didn't have to rush anywhere. I didn't, it was like calm. I could get up in the morning and just stroll into the other room to the little office that I'd set myself up, and it was good. And I think that was actually beneficial for a lot of people, although obviously the drawbacks would be human interaction, as you were saying yourself, with your job. So yeah, swings and roundabouts, but I'm glad you made it through the first lockdown. And then I take it you went back into being at work after, when things opened up again in the summer.
Yeah. When we first went back, I think there was a little bit of nervousness, let's say, with everyone, So obviously, like, I found it very surprising with the staff members that were in there. Some were, as you said, some were a bit like, oh, you don't need a mask and this and the other. And some were like, maybe have a mask. Like, do you know what I mean? I think because the information or people's knowledge of what was right was a little bit up in the air. Everyone just kind of made assumptions or opinions. I mean, some people may have been more educated, but when I first went back, I was wearing like a mask that I bought off Amazon that looked like a Bane mask, and like I was wearing like American football gloves, and it was so hot, I was sweating like every single time I was going in there. But I was having to go outside and right, let's go back in there. Do you know what I mean? But the first bit was a bit nervous.
Safe when, as you say, you've got a family at home and stuff, man. There's no, like, I know there was this whole thing about like, if you're fit and healthy, you haven't got to worry. Trust me, after having had it and knowing people my age, I'm 33, and I know people that are way fitter than me that had it, that were on their arse. Trust me, it doesn't discriminate, man. It's out there.
Yeah, no, mate, like 100%. I think that's the scariest thing about this thing. Like the government saying, oh, obesity is linked to the death of, if you have COVID, you're more likely to die and all this, that, the other. I mean, like yes, okay, those who are fitter, you may have a better lung capacity or whatever, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. Like if your immune system can't handle it. Yeah. I know so many people that had interactions and they were on their ass, as you said, like, and I try to play it safe by, wiping my hands and this and that. And I'll tell you what, I've got this little bum bag that I carry around, like at work. And I'll tell you, I've got hand sanitizer, I've got a spare mask in there. It's literally just like a utility kit. I should be called Batman, like having that, like, with all the stuff. I was cleaning myself all the time, face wipes and all this. But going back to the second time, I think clients are nervous and a lot of them didn't want to go back to start with. So I was transitioning between going to the park outside, and I tell you what, when the second lockdown hit, and then obviously that was taken away from them, so a lot of my clients just went downhill because we knew we were going into the winter months anyway. Yeah. And I think that's when it really hit people, think, Christ, this is serious because we've gone down again. Do you know what I mean? And all the news, I got to a point where I couldn't watch the news because I was thinking, I was so depressed of it being like that. Literally just, try and be as positive as possible. I'm always a kind of a glass half full sort of guy and think, right, if we can't do that, we're doing this, and trying to get your mind off the crap and thinking if I was positive, how can I be productive in my limitations? What can we educate? What can we do? Let's try to be creative and this and that. And then I was trying to say the same thing to clients. Like it was more like habit programming. I tried to give them in lockdown. So it was, I don't know what to do. I said, well, why don't you pick up a new hobby or something like that? I know it sounds really silly, but I said painting, to one of my clients. And she's, ever since like the second lockdown, she's like a full painting enthusiast and she's really gone into it as like a hobby. And she said, like, thank you so much for that, because she pretty much wouldn't know what she wanted to do. She doesn't really like watch TV. She's very much a social person, likes going on long walks and this and the other. But she said the painting really allowed her to escape, that escapism for her. And I think a lot of my clients needed that kind of.
Yeah, for me, it was for first lockdown, it was cycling. I started cycling because the roads I live in central London and the roads were empty. So I was just having a whale of a time being able to cycle without fear of death. Second lockdown, I mean, during the first lockdown, I collected a lot of books, although I didn't necessarily have time to read anymore because I still had a lot of work to do from home. During the second lockdown, like the 4-week one that we had, I killed the reading and I smashed through a couple of books then. But this third lockdown has obviously been podcasting. So it is important to have an outlet. It is.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty for you though, my friend. Like at the end of the day, this may have given you a different string to your many bows to go down and become something more as well. You've evolved as a person, evolved as your skill set. And that's what I'm saying. Like that is, without this, some people think, oh, COVID, a lot of my clients say, oh, COVID's so bad. I'm like, well, I'm looking at the positive. Like, more time with my kids, being able to learn how to do stuff online, like and then read a book, as you say, read a book or play my PlayStation, which I still haven't done, you know, with little man running around and trying to help and everything like that. Yeah. But just stuff like that, you know, and it's amazing. As you, going back to your point earlier, like people's moods from not going into work, I think this has totally changed the whole landscape of how work and everything's going to be going on, because I think, you know, the workplaces have to acknowledge that still productivity was made with people being at home, you know, but how it's going to be, how the landscape's going to be in the next 2, 3, 5 years, it's anyone's guess. But I really do think of like a mental health or health itself, because it is stress, getting up early, having to go to work, the mundane thing, you know. If it was like a 50-50, like going to work, you know, 2-3 days a week, and I could do the other lot at home, I think on a mental note and stress levels, that will be fundamentally amazing for like the society, you know, because people have that little bit of extra time. And, you know, going into London costs a lot of money. Like if you're on the outskirts, you know, for a year's like bloody travel, you know, that's already an overhead over your head before you can get into work.
I used to live in Zone 5 and I was paying over 200 quid a month to get into work. I saw a tweet from someone who lives sort of outskirts of East London out into Essex, and he pays £600 a month to travel into London. And he said, he was saying on his Twitter, he was saying, since lockdown, I've been more productive and I'm saving £600 a month. So over the last year, he's saved over £6,000. It's like if you do that for 2 or 3 years, you can buy yourself a second home, or buy your first home, buy a new car. You know, like the possibilities are endless. I've actually got a friend who's selling his flat in London and moving out to Essex because he's realised that, well, actually, I only need to be in the city 1 day a week. I might as well just spend 30-40 quid a week on the train fare, come into Shoreditch 1 day a week, and then work from home the rest of the time. It's like, it doesn't make sense to be going back and forth, you know, and the journey's twice as long, but oh well. Like I'm doing it once a week, so
exactly.
I think it's definitely going to be a bit of a shift in society, and I think this time has opened up a lot of eyes for people, and I think that's really great that you were able to provide that for your clients and sort of give them an influence into another outlet. Which brings me on to getting onto you a little bit more and how you actually decided to get into the world of becoming a PT and what influenced you to get into the world of health and fitness as a career full time.
So how I started out, I've always been a sports enthusiast. I think I've come from a family who, I mean, I've been very, very blessed with, supportive parents. You know, they've been incredible for me. So, because my mum was always into swimming teaching. So ever since I was like, 1 year old, I was chucked in the pool, and I had to learn how to single swim. And I kind of sank and swam like at the bottom of it. And then they had to worry until I had a breath. But yeah, it was down to my parents, really. And I was kind of envious of them. My dad was a big squash player. My mum was swimming. She played for Crystal Palace ladies for a little bit. And my mum was very much, she would try anything. And it made me laugh when she went into, when I was quite young, I think I was like 10 years old, she rejoined the police force, and she started going to the gym. She started like really bulking out. And I was like, Jesus, man, like, what? I mean, my mum's kind of a big lady anyway, but she just looked solid, you know what I mean? She looked like a rugby prop.
And, deadlifts, that's deadlifts, that is.
Deadlifts, mate. It's all about deadlifts, mate. That's it. That's all it's all about. And it just intrigued me. I'm thinking, well, why are you moving weights like at such a young age? Because I thought it was all down to sport, and I really love football, loved squash, love bowling. I tried anything, and it just intrigued me. And I thought, let's go in there. And then we had a membership at, back in the day, it was called STCC. Like it's the David Lloyd in Purley. And we used to go down and play squash, and my mum always used to go into gym there. I was like, I'm really interested to go in there. So as a naughty boy, I used to sneak in there just to have a look at what's going on. And I just thought, oh, what's this thing do? What's this? Just being curious as a kid and stuff. And but then I was always like, you're not allowed in. Back in the day. I mean, they said, weights stunt your growth and all this crap. And basically just wasn't allowed until I kind of got to college after school. I mean, I played sport in school and everything, got to college. And then there was a gym there. And I was like, no, I'm going to go into this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm, 16 years old. Let's see what I can make of it. And started just training, pumping weights. And for me, the fitness thing, I think it was more of a confidence thing, because being dyslexic and being bullied pretty much all my life at school, I needed to have an outlet, and sport was my outlet, and training was my outlet. And I got to a decent level of fitness, and then I got quite a bad injury, and I was suffering from it for a while, my knee. And I came across this guy called Phil at my college, and I was training, and I kept getting injured. And then he did I was doing a BTEC in sport. And then one of the modules was sports injuries, and I met him. And even to this day, I just see him as just like, surrogate uncle. Do you know what I mean? Like, one of those people you meet in your life, and they did, they made such an influence. They turned how you thought of things and everything.
Like a proper mentor.
Yeah, like, I mean, he was. Yeah, and sadly, well, obviously it's a discussion for another day, but unfortunately he took his own life. And that kind of broke me. But I still go back to that day where he says, you can make more of yourself. You can make more of it. Because I was thinking of going into the army. Like, originally, when I was 16, I thought, I can't really offer anything. I'm not smart. Like, I always compared myself to my sister, who's a very, very intelligent girl, and always had a lot of self-doubt. I mean, being bullied all the time and struggling reading when you're at school, the only outlet you got is physical. So I thought the next thing would be going to the army and whatever. And he said, no, you can make more of yourself, just knuckle down, do this and the other. You're a hard worker. It's just, you just suck at exams. And that's the thing. And I really took that to heart. And from there, he kind of gave me the confidence. And I did well on my BTEC. I got all the qualifications because I didn't do that great at school.
Where did you go to college?
Nescott College, near York. And I got the grades I needed to go and do a sports therapy course in university. And alongside that as well, I was thinking, do I go down, like, I was thinking about being a fireman or this and the other, or do I go down, the PT route or this and the other? And I thought, no, I'll go down the university route. It was and for me, that was the hardest route, because I wanted to kind of make Phil proud, because I thought, I'm not going to do university. I can't see myself doing it. And when I went to university, I said, right, I'm going to go and do a PT course alongside it. And I went down, did the NESM qualification at university in America, like kind of module thing, and passed that, which is great. And then I just kept on adding strings to my bow. I said, oh, I like that course. I like that course. I like that course. And just kind of went with the industry at the time. And trust me, like, I've been on some courses that gave you, well, now you look at it, it's such bad information. I mean, I think my career as a PT has totally, totally like gone with the flow of the education that was out there. Nowadays, like, the education is phenomenal. And like, the information you can get just like that from YouTube, in a way, it's fantastic for the novice. But for me, I'm like, Christ, I put at least 18 years into this. Yeah. And now it's like the next the last 5 years, I'm like, Christ, literally all this information is just coming out. Yeah. Like, oh, well, if it was only then. But anyway, I mean, I did it as a self-confidence thing, I think, to try and prove people wrong. Like he just said, you won't be any more than, say, like a dustman or something. No disrespect to dustman and all that. But, so I think I have my outlet in sport and fitness. And when I got it, honestly, it just totally changed as an individual. My confidence went up. And I always thought I'd like to emulate Phil in the way that he really helped me. Like, not only just on the physical side, where my knees, like, I never thought I would do very well on my legs and I'd be able to squat properly and all this and that, but he helped me do it. And I thought, I want to emulate that. I don't want to be a trainer to, unfortunately, there's a lot of trainers out there that they've all got their own journey. Do you know what I mean? And I totally respect everyone's journey or different niche or this and the other. But going into the training, I just want to help people. Do you know what I mean? It's literally your goal, how can I help you? And I'll say, if I can help you, if I can't, I'll refer you on, because I think the whole goal is the evolution of someone. I think the betterment of them. And I've come across more people. I swear I should have been a life coach instead. Listening to some of the some of my clients come out. But then that's it. You build a relationship with your clients as well. Obviously, you've got to keep to certain professionalism, but at the same time, I think myself being genuine with my clients is the only way to be, because then if you give a little bit of yourself and show that you're empathetic or you're actually listening, that honestly is so much more powerful than say, right, let's do 50 burpees. Do you know what I mean? And not even give 2 hoots. And I think that allows people to de-stress a lot. I think fitness is great, one, for endorphins, but 2, to kind of de-stress. And that feel-good factor, then after you've had a really good session, or you feel that you've kind of decompressed, having a chat with someone, even a friend, even most of the time I'm outside of the circle of anyone that they can have. So it's kind of a safe area as well. Yeah. So that for me, I mean, I think it's more powerful than anything else. And if it feels good, mate, I like to help you. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I feel like I'm draining myself, because obviously taking people's stuff on an emotional level, it does wear me out. But I'm quite lucky, because I'm always glass half full and I'm got abundance of energy. Do you know what I mean? So that's cool with me. And seeing people have success, like my client Rose, like she had a car crash, and for her was to get her walking again. It took me 2 years, but I got her walking again. Like when her leg was crushed, her foot was like in her knee, So that for me is probably one of the best things. I've helped my client Chris lose 30 kilograms in just body weight, and he's an incredible man that has really bought into it. He's always been sporty, but always neglected the diet, the routine, and trying too hard.
I was going to ask about things like diet and stuff. Did you also study nutrition as well? Have you done nutrition courses and stuff?
Well, they say nutrition courses, mate, but
it's a lifelong process, I think, with food, because Helen will tell you, I've gone, for full disclosure for anyone listening, we mentioned Helen a couple of times. Helen is one of my best friends who you're actually marrying in the summer, yes. Finally after COVID delays. But Helen will tell you, when she met me, I was probably a lot trimmer than I am now. And before that, I went from about 21 stone in 2011. I went down to 1411. And that was about as trim as I got. I've always been a fat kid, always. And one day I woke up in 2011 and I was depressed as anything. And I'd got to a stage of my music career where I couldn't progress because people were holding me back. I didn't really have any qualification. Sort of similar story, you were telling that I didn't really have a career progression. I was in a rut, and I was like, I had family trouble and everything else. And I was like, what can I do for me that no one else can do? People can only help. They can't stop me. They can't hold me back. They can't get in my way. And I went, you know what? I've got a mate who's a bodybuilder, a DJ called John Warren. Big him up. I rang him and I said to him, right. I was like, what do I eat? And he went, right, eat this, this, and this. And I had my aunt used to run the David Lloyd's in Rains Park. You remember her, Emma?
Yeah.
So and she was like, yeah, I'll put you on my membership, come down, use the gym whenever you want. And I used to go from Bromley over to Rains Park to use the free gym every day. And I dropped, 6 stone. Now I've gone up and down, up and down, up and down. And currently I'm way up thanks to COVID. But the difference is, I have these conversations with Joe, and it's just like, all I need to do is get my mind into the place and my schedule into the place where I know I can dedicate it. But I know so much about food now. And I've learned so much over the years about what to eat, what not to eat. One of the reasons I piled weight back on after 2013 was because I plateaued at about 14 and a half stone and I couldn't get any more. What I didn't realize is if I'd have changed my diet and, gone from eating almost entirely just protein and vegetables to eating, maybe like an 80% fat diet for a couple of months, and I could have changed my body. And, there's loads of different ways you can do things to shock your metabolism and things like that. But there's like, I think, you chuckle at the phrase nutrition course, and I do as well, because it's like, it's an ever-changing thing with every individual's body, and the science and the way we eat food changes constantly as well. As you were saying, with the progression of being a PT and stuff like that. I mean, 30 years ago, your diet was supposed to be 80% carbs, right? you were supposed to just eat rice and pasta and vegetables and bread and shit. Like it is,
Yep.
but nowadays it's just like, actually, no, it's probably more like 20% carbs, with the majority of that coming from vegetables and the rest of it fat and protein. So yeah, it's interesting. But did you get into any like classes and stuff on nutrition, or has it just been more of a learning procedure for you?
Well, on the personal training courses that we went on, I went on, they had nutrition modules on it, and I have done like I can't remember what it was, because I think I kind of shied away from the nutrition in the fact that I thought it was more about, well, when I was younger, when I very, very first started, I mean, I went on the nutrition course to just learn the basics and stuff, and I knew what worked for me. And I thought, well, okay, if I'm going to be a PT, a lot of these other PTs, like in the gyms also, they're giving nutrition plans. I'm like, all right, okay, I better do that as well, because maybe that's, you know, what we're supposed to do. We need to be masters of everything. And then I went on this nutrition course, exactly what you said. I was prescribing this like kind of plan to people, and they just weren't getting any results. And I think back in the day, maybe like the accountability and the protocol, obviously I didn't do, because obviously I was wet behind the ears. But now, kind of going into it more, like you said, it's down to experience and what works for you. And it's you. I mean, it's not going to one size fits all. And as the perfect thing, as you said, is shock, because we're adaptoids. You know, our bodies are adaptoids. We adapt to different stresses. If you get used to stress, then your body gets antibodies, and it's like used to it. It's like, well, no, you know, you have the same diet, and the body's like, oh, I'm used to this. This is coming in all the time. It doesn't.
It's like if you take the same antibiotic to get rid of an infection, eventually you have to stop taking the medication, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's amazing because the body just gets used to it. And that's what the perfect thing, what you said, is shock. Now, I you know, just through my own experience, I mean, I'm more of a meat guy. Do you know what I mean? I love my meat. I love my proteins, and I'm very much a meat and carbs kind of guy, and always is. Because obviously I've always been in sport and stuff. And obviously my diet's changed over the years. You know, I've probably eat less. Well, I say less junk food, but I think at the same time you can still utilize some junk food as long as you're like 90% good at the most of the time. You know, because at the end of the day, like, life's life. You know, unless you are doing a competition, you seriously can't have it. You need to get to like the single digit like body fat and stuff like that. Just enjoy life a little bit, but just be sensible. Have the majority of the time eat well. We all know what really we need to eat is vegetables and protein, and not so high sugars, and, you know, water. That's, you know, think about what back in World War II, like, you know, that's what people had to, like, rations, and that's, you know, that's how you were supposed to eat. It's just like meat, veg, and that's it. And don't overindulge, and that's it.
If it grows, walks, and flies, eat it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. If it goes, walks, and flies. That's a great way.
There's a reason why it's there, you know. Like I'm not a religious person, but I do believe there's something that created what we're in, you know. And we live in this weird world, but the things that we need are at our fingertips, and you have to think about what's here, you know. So
yeah, exactly. And I think it's being much natural, but that's the problem nowadays. If you look at all of our food sources and how it's farmed and everything like this, you know, we've got to really question like the pesticides and all the stuff that's used to grow certain things, and also packaging. And then you go see all these fitness companies. What do they actually put into it? You know, like when they say 0 calorie, like Coke and all that crap, what the hell do you put in it then? And then even now they say, oh, sweetener's good for you. Sweetener's good for you. But then it's only proved that it may not be that good for you now. There's more research behind it. Do you know what I mean? So it's ever evolving. That's why when someone says, do you do nutrition? I'm like, nope. Like, I can advise you like the basics, but see a dietitian. They are specialists in the field. One, they'll do your bloods, they'll do your saliva, and also knowing about what intolerances you got. You know, intolerance test kits. That's why I say to my clients, like, right, first, I'm not your guy. Like, I'll hold my hands up. I can guide you, but you need to kind of trial and error with me. But if you want to go that next level and get it, you've got to pay for it. Like, for a nutritionist, so many people would say, I'm a nutritionist, I can do this, I can do a nutrition plan, this and the other. It's so freaking generic. Like, you see all these like coaches online where they give you bare basics and stuff like, and they follow like a formula, but they don't know if they've got those intolerances. You know, there's so much more to it, and that's where I stand back a bit. I'm like, nah, I would not say I'm a nutritionist in that, and I make it perfectly clear. One is hard work, because if you've got a client that can't process B vitamins, or they've got a gut problem or inner lining problem, they're not going to process certain foods. There's going to be a certain diet on them that they can have. Like, they may be lactose intolerant, so they can't go on a keto diet. There's so many things to it. So I think it's really important, because our body's ever changing as well. Like,
I'm pretty sure I'm developing. Sadly, I think I'm developing lactose intolerance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's been a couple of times recently where, and sometimes just random food allergies that have hit me. Like, I'll eat something. Like, me and Joe had something the other week. We had like a pasta thing that she made, and it was beautiful. It was really, really nice. And one of these recipes we'd seen on Instagram or whatever, and it was like, oh, this is great. And we ate it, and we were just about to head out, and literally walked downstairs, went to her car, and I went, I need to go back inside. And she was like, why? And I was like, that is not agreeing with me at all. And literally horrors, absolute horrors. I was in the bathroom, like, just literally just glued to the porcelain potty, mate, for like 45 minutes. Like,
See, wow. This is what kind of like baffles me as well. Like, when we were kids and stuff like that, everyone's like, yeah, have milk. It's really good. It helps grow bones and all this and the other. And I'm still, partial to a pint of milk before I go to bed. You know what I mean? I've just excessed the cookies at the moment, But I love milk. But what I do now, I have almond milk quite a lot of the time. It's lactose free, but then there's still, cow sauce or whatever. And I find it's good. Or I go like almond milk or coconut milk and all this and the other. But I do still have milk in the diet, because after researching quite a lot online, and trust me, there's a lot online about, people are for and against, and, we're all deficient in this and all this, that, the other. It's a minefield. Yeah. So you've got to try and find guys who can actually back up what they say. Like, Thomas DeLauer is like a YouTuber, and he's really advocate of the keto recipe. Do you know what I mean? He advocates that. And then there's someone else, what's he called? Jeff something. I can't remember his second name at the moment. Terrible names. But he's was on the podcast of Mind Pump TV. If you have never seen it, watch Mind Pump. They're really, really, really good guys. Talk about all things fitness, and they're just real. And I'm like, yes, I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, that's spot on. Because it's been in the industry for 20 years. You do see these trends all happening, like with like nutrition or fitness or training or setting up your core and all that. But with nutrition, it's changed so much from when I first started. And now I just do it for convenience. A lot of people also, when they go on these nutrition so-and-so called diets, they fail. They fail. All these fatty diets, they all freaking fail. The reason being is because it's not realistic. A lot of the times unrealistic. Can you put it into your daily routine? Can it be something you do for the rest of your life? Or, it's a cycle or like a blend, like, can you do this for 12 weeks? Right. As you said, shock the system, 12 weeks, same thing, but little nips and tucks here that's still going to give you the same macros, but your body will adapt to it because it needs to utilize obviously what you wanted to have, So yeah, mate. I mean,
it is definitely a minefield, and it is a learning process. It all comes down to your own personal lifestyle as well. I'd love to say that I would go, because when I did lose all of that weight initially, it was like pretty much keto based. I was pretty much just eating meat and vegetables. Wasn't doing anything else apart from that.
Yeah, how did you find that on the keto diet? Because I'm interested in asking. Like,
do you know what's interesting is at the time is I didn't know that's what it was. Because I was just literally like, I was like, right, turkey, I can eat that. Pork without the fat, I'm eating that. Chicken, I can eat that. A little bit of beef, I can eat that. Occasionally I'd eat porridge, very occasionally. But then the rest of the time it was just vegetables or boiled eggs. If I was hungry, I'd eat a boiled egg or 3 boiled eggs. Do you know what I mean? And I would just literally get in the gym. But I was training for like 2 hours a day. I was like just a mad obsessed person. It was brand new to me, So at the time I didn't know that it was keto, but I felt great. I really did feel great. Cutting out all bread and everything else, I just felt fantastic. But I think a big problem, and one of the other reasons I put weight back on, was that I was militant, like to the point of being ridiculous. Like, we'd go to, the only place I would eat is Nando's, because they did a grilled chicken and that's all I would eat. So, but it's the
Love it.
only place like whenever my mates are going out and they're like, "Oh, we'll go here, go there." I'm like, right. If they've got something that's like just plain meat and veg on the menu, I'll go. If not, the only place I eat is Nando's. But like, I was so militant with absolutely everything. Like, I didn't eat junk food. I didn't drink anything bad. I didn't do anything. I didn't drink alcohol for like 6 months. I didn't do anything like that. That when the time came that I plateaued at the weight, and once I started to eat that other stuff, it was like I'd been stupid and deprived myself of absolutely everything. So when I then fell off the wagon a little bit, I fell hard and just
Yeah.
dropped right back down. And yeah, I've been yo-yoing ever since. So I go through phases of when I'm a bit trimmer. I've never got back down under 15, but I did. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on it without libel or slander. But I did do the body coach course. I did that in 2017, and I've got to say it worked. It definitely worked. The training was easy to understand. It was like, just basic hit stuff for the first couple of weeks. Then the second part was like GVT, and then it was like pyramid training for the third month. And it was like the recipes were great. I will say that, like the food side of things were great, but it was unsustainable because it was like very regimented. The portion sizes were ridiculous. Like, I mean, I'd never eaten so much food in my life and I still lost a shitload of weight, which was great, which is cool. But it was a lot of dedication. And by the end of it, again, it was like, right, I've been really strict for the last 12 weeks. I can't live like that, So it was difficult. But how do you feel about things like that? Because to me, it seems like kind of like a crash diet, but nutrition wise, it was a good blend. It was like I wasn't eating anything that was stupid, I wasn't doing anything dangerous. It was a good balanced diet, and the training was fun, but I found it unsustainable. Where do you sit with guys like that? And I wouldn't slag him off because he's done what he's done and he's a good guy, but like with people like that in the industry that provide both, what's your sort of view on those sort of things?
I think those kind of plans are good. One, because there's a new stimulus for you.
Yeah.
So you've gone from hitting hard, good stimulus, you're giving yourself a good routine. Obviously, the exercise and moving your body for me is key. Like, I mean, nutrition goes hand in hand with it. It's like, you've got to put the right fuel in your car for your car to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you've got to live a little bit as well. I think, as I said, everything's balanced. I think the body coach, because when he first started out, he was actually working with someone, and I think the other person did the nutrition side of it, and he was much more the motivator, the design, and he's a lovable character, and he works well with a lot of people. And funny enough, I actually applied to do his thing. He was looking for coaches and stuff like that, and didn't actually get through. But anyway, but no, I think I think you're right in the fact that you need to have a sustainable program that people can actually stick to. Like the food, you're saying you ate quite a lot. Basically, because that's revving your metabolism up all the time, because your body knows it's going to get food coming in. So therefore, your thermogenesis is going to be a lot higher. And moving the right way, as in change your program, as you said, right, GVT, and then it's pyramid training and stuff like that, because you're changing the stimulus to the training. That's what's really important as well, having a good plan to stimulate growth in different ways. And, because your body adapts to everything we do, as I said. And change and challenge, I always say challenge yourself, don't damage yourself in that way. And the fact that you've got to have enough stimulus to create the change, but don't do it to an extent or an intensity that could be detrimental to you. With the food and stuff like that, I think as long as you roughly know your macros you need for your BMR, basically how many calories you need to survive, and obviously supply.
And you can get that information free just by looking online and doing the math.
Just do the math. The Harrison formula I normally use. So just Google Harrison formula and you put all the stats in. It's easy enough to know. So right, okay, that's how many calories I need to survive. Right, and then you say, are you super active? You put 1.7 on it. You just times the number by that, and it gives you like it assumes that's how many you should be having. Don't get me wrong, they're really good formulas, but if you really want to know pound for pound, you need to know how many calories you're burning in training, like your metabolic level, and you could go and get yourself tested in a lab. I know this costs like 800 quid, but you can find out exactly all of that if
you want to go really deep. Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, You know, I look in the mirror, I'm like, am I happy? Yeah. And then that's it. Like at the end of the day, like I think it's different. Like for young lads nowadays, they're very much more body conscious than they were back in the day when I was there. I was conscious because of fitness and this, that, and the other. I wanted to be powerful or functional and this, that, and the other. Yeah. I think there's a lot to do with body image with men nowadays, and especially women. Women have always kind of had it hard when it comes to their imagery. So nutrition has kind of gone hand in hand with that. You know, I think it needs to be sustainable. So generally, like a quite good method you could do is literally say, right, what are your proteins that you can have? What are your carbs you can have? What's your veggies and this and the other? You know, and you be creative that way. You know, so you say, right, these are the protein sources I can have, even if you're a vegetarian or a vegan or this and the other, you've got your list of that. Carbohydrates that ideally, you know, obviously the glycemic index, if you go really high glycemic index kind of foods, like really high sugary foods, you'd have them in and around your training time, or when you're going to be most active. So therefore you're not like limited. You say, oh, you can't have that, you know. But then at the times you're not going to be active, choose something like courgette instead of pasta.
I think that was really good with the body coach program. For anyone who's done it, they'll know this, but you only actually tend to have carbs, proper carbs, because obviously there's carbs in vegetables and stuff, but you only tend to have proper carbs on days where you're doing the training, because the training was basically, you know, on the days where you're doing GVT, it's like 10 rounds of 10, obviously that's what GVT is. And then you do 8 minutes of HIIT and then you go back. So basically you do 10 rounds of 10 on the bench. Then you go and do 8 minutes of like a HIIT training, either running or rowing. And then you'd go back and do GVT, but it would be rows or something like that. Yeah, it was like both, two things in one day. And then you'd do another 8 minutes of HIIT after that. So you're constantly at a level. So the training was really good, but you'd only eat carbs on the days where you were actually training, which goes back to what you were just advising as well. Like, you know, eat it when you're going to be most active, when you know you're going to get rid of it, when your metabolism's up. So yeah, I think there's loads of little things that you could take from everything. But yeah, with regards to programs and stuff like that, I think they're good. Like it was good for me to do, but I definitely, like you were saying, not sustainable, just not sustainable.
Yeah. You just need to make sure that, you know, if it's for a period, if it gets you there, what's going to be a new stimulus, or how can you choose a style of training or eating that can sustain where you're at your point of, you know, point of being. And then also it's like, are you happy? Are you happy doing that style of training? Right. Well, what else can you do? And I think if you can do something that you enjoy, because you know, a lot of my clients do sport and they say, or go cycling, or, you know, they go running, or they've got kids. So that's a workout in itself. But I mean, a lot of clients like just love lifting weights and stuff, and it has to be sustainable, especially for your life. Like if you, as you said before, like if you went to work, a lot of the clients I had, like they go into London, you know, they leave at like 5:30 in the morning. They've got to be at work for like 7:30, 8 o'clock. They do a whole day's work. They come and see me at about like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. They've only eaten like a really high sugary meal at lunchtime, and then they've had a drop at about 3 or 4 o'clock. They've had a snack. They come to me, they're like,
yeah.
So right, I'm ready to train. And I'm like, are you though? So, you know, and then like nowadays I'm like, right, how was your day? And the number one thing for me is how's your stress level and have you slept?
Yep.
If you're stressed and then like you haven't slept and your nutrition has been off point, your training is pointless in that regard. So the only thing you should do is try and replenish yourself. 9 times out of 10, if someone has hit those like first 3, I'm like, right, let's mobilize and let's just chat and let's just go something really easy, because it's more about the decompression after all of that stress through the day or what you've had to deal with. And that's right. Let's refocus. And the next day, you've got to make sure you're on point of X, Y, Z. Do really, really simple things. Don't give yourself too much a harder task, because so many people go, oh, I'm really bad. You know, I've had a really bad day yesterday of food. Now, so you got like, you know, generally nutrition. If you've had one bad meal, if you're on this nutrition, people villainize themselves as well. And you don't need to, because at the end of the day, like, so you've got to like kind of enjoy the journey as well and say, right, I've fallen down, hands up to it, right, but do better going forward. Because otherwise, if you're stressing about it, that'll be much worse than actually, you know, just getting on with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a big part of it's mental over anything physical or any sort of knowledge. And I'll give a prime example. I recently started, you'll probably know about Couch to 5K.
Yes.
which is so I really enjoy, when I lost a load of weight before, I really enjoyed running, but because I'm quite big, it's never really good for me at all. But I do really enjoy it. I'm even on a treadmill, because I could stick a podcast in for 20 minutes, do the hit training. You know, I can't run distance, but I could always sprint and stop and sprint and stop. You know, I'm quite explosive, so I'm like, okay, cool. I wanted recently, I said to Joe, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do couch to 5K. So, because my main thing is I need to lose about 4 or 5 stone without a doubt. But my main thing is getting my fitness back up. Since I had COVID, it's taken a knock. And obviously, since I've not been that active, like I'm out of breath, just, you know, running for the bus kind of thing. So, I was like, right, let me try this couch to 5K thing. So I started it. First session, for anyone who hasn't done it, basically, you know, it's an app that you listen to, and it tells you when to run and when to walk, and it changes week to week, and it makes you run longer distances and sometimes shorter, and it basically adjusts your body that over the course of, I believe it's 9 or 12 weeks or something like that.
Well, I think,
It teaches you how to run for either 30 minutes or 5K, because a rough average time for 5K is about 30 minutes. But some people, you know, in 30 minutes they'll run 4K. So, you know, whatever it is. The first session I did, oh my god, I was blowing out of my ass. I was so bad. Like, I got through it, but I was rough as arseholes. I was like, oh, this is second session nailed it, because you know, I'd got that off my chest. I was back on it. I was cool. Third session, okay. The second week got me bad. So midway through the first session of the second week, I rested a couple of days. I was resting a day in between the other week, but I rested 2 days. I went in and did it towards the very end, last 4 or 5 minutes before the warm down. My shin started hurting, my left leg, and like excruciating pain. So okay, I've only got a couple of minutes left. We'll see what we can do with this. Run through it. Got to the end of it. Stretched out at the end and everything else, because I know what this is. You know, like this, we're going there. But the next session, it was really random. So it was a UFC a couple of weeks ago, and I usually have a nice nap on a Saturday evening. Get up about 10 p.m. and I sit up all night to watch the UFC. I do it once a month. It's what I do. It's my thing. So I went and had my nap. I got up about 10. I hadn't been to the gym that day, although I'd meant to. And I thought, right, I've got an hour. The streets are empty. I live by the Thames. I'm just going to walk down and I'm going to do couch to 5K outdoors. I haven't run outdoors for years. So I thought, why not give it a go? I did the first run, which is about 90 seconds. Started to go. I did the walk. Pain eased off. Was absolutely fine. Was trying to stretch as I walked. And then hit it again, and mate, the pain, it felt like my shin was going to burst through my leg. It was so painful. I can't begin to describe it. And then the space in between the bottom of my calf and my Achilles on the back of the other leg, that went as well when I was walking back. And I was just like, right, shin splints, fantastic. Not what anyone needs, but I've got massive calves. They are tight because they carry around quite a heavy load on a day-to-day basis anyway. I completely screwed myself. However, I haven't let it deter me. What I have done is decided to go back to super basics. And although my leg still has a little bit of pain, I actually, funnily enough, ran 4A bus earlier and felt, you know, still tender in the shin and stuff. Elliptical. I went straight back into the gym and I was like, right, let me get back on this cardio bandwagon and see how long I can go on an elliptical for. And, you know, I hit 20 minutes at a good resistance, good pace, non-stop, went through and felt really good afterwards. And then I actually felt so good that I jumped on the bike and did 10 minutes on the bike after as well. And my point is, after that long convoluted story, is adapt, change it to something you can do. It's something I learned with, I don't know if you've ever heard of DDP yoga.
No.
So DDP was Diamond Dallas Page. He was a professional wrestler. He was in WCW and all that.
Diamond Dallas.
Diamond Dallas Page. So he has his own yoga program.
Does he?
Yeah, it started off, it was called YRG, which is yoga for regular guys. Because a lot of guys, like probably you, myself included, like you don't want to do yoga. You see, it's kind of a bit silly, you know, blah, blah, blah. Once you do it, you realize you are wrong. You are very, very wrong. But he started his own yoga thing, and I did it. I've actually still got it. I did it from home for quite a while. And one of the things he teaches in that is adapt it to what you can do. So he includes like long press ups. So like a press up where it's 1, 2, 3 down, hold, and then 3 up as well. So it's not just traditional yoga moves. It's a combination of different stuff. But he's like, they give variations during the workout. So if you're struggling with this, drop to the knees. Do the press ups from your knees, put the pressure on your arms and your chest. You're still doing the work, but it's giving you a break and you're adapting it. And then next time you do it, try it again on the feet. You know, like it's adaptability.
Testing stuff.
Yeah. And that's
Test
what
on how your body's adapted to the stresses. Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
And that's what you were poking at. And that's something, yeah, I'd back it up 100% because I need to do that now because unfortunately my legs aren't going to handle Couch to 5K. But one thing I am going to try and do is do the Couch to 5K app, but go very slow on the elliptical, just holding on to the handles when it's the walk time, and then when it's the run time, fully go in and actually try and go hard with the arm movements as well. So adaptability is key, I think, and it's something that I'm going to be practicing for the rest of this year, especially given I've got to try and find something sensible and smart to wear for your wedding.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly.
But yeah,
exactly.
adaptability is key, man. So obviously, speaking of adaptability and speaking of progress, you've done your qualifications, you're a fully qualified PT, and you know, you kind of started taking on your own clients. And yeah, what was the process behind sort of going it on your own, and how did it all get started for you with, you know, right at the very start of becoming Body Rocks Ben?
I think I was quite lucky, actually. I had people like kind of push me, say, you know, because I was working in David Lloyd's and, you know, Nuffield Health. I was being an instructor, like as in teaching spin classes, teaching circuit classes, teaching body combat, body attack, boxercise, you know, all these classes. And I kind of gathered a quite good following, really. And, you know, I had someone said, look, you know, you can make a, you know, your own business out of this. And at the time I was like, yeah, like I always thought at some point, like I've got the fitness thing and maybe I'll go into being a general manager or go apply for a job that way. And I wasn't sure where it was going to go because after university I was helping people and doing PT, and I just found the PT industry was very hard if you're in corporate, because whenever you work for a company like, you know, like the big ones, yeah. You basically get shafted, let's say. Like, you know, you charge, I remember when I first started, I was charging something like 40 quid or something like that. And after, you know, after they took it, you end up with like 8 quid, 9 quid at the end of it. So after all your qualifications, all this and the other, you're working in big companies, you think, oh, you're going to get all these benefits and that. But actually, you're working like slave labor, man, like for it. So that kind of pushed me into the way of doing classes, because obviously it was a higher pay. So I was doing that, but it was great. And I, you know, got lots of energy. I love teaching a class, man. Honestly, you've got to come to one of my circuits one time, my friend. Yeah. Like, you know, come down, because I kind of turn into a different animal when it comes to that, because I just get excited by pushing people in that regard, you know, and getting the best out of them in like a nice high energy class. But then I thought, well, the PT's not working. The class is okay, but it's very like time consuming, you know, in the sense, you know, they're driving all over the place and having just one class where I was trying to get 2 or 3 classes back to back to make it worthwhile. And I thought, I've got to take this leap, you know, at some point, you know. So I just ended up thinking, you know, let's come up with a name. I had someone at the time like was kind of helping me, thinking of coming up with a name, and it came up with like, I want to be solid, you know, I want to be strong, and this and the name kind of rock came up. And then I just thought, well, a strong body, strong rock body rock, you know, and it just came about that way. And then I was lucky enough, I was doing some PT at where did I go, Top Notch, and I was doing quite well there. Then I went to university again, and then came back, then David Lloyd's, and then I went to Pearly, and then eventually, because I was kind of doing PT in and around other places and doing it in parks and stuff, man, teaching PT in park was like horrible in the winter, man, when you had to get up early and it's pissing down with rain. It was like the worst. But then I found my friend Russell Jones, who used to be, I used to play golf with him at Walker Park Golf Club, and they used to have a junior clubhouse, and it was an absolute shithole. They never really looked after it, but he actually, before me, repurposed it, and I got in touch with him. I can't remember how I got in touch with him, but he said, like, I've got a studio here, do you want to come and train? It's like, yeah, and then we basically blended. Me and him are very, very similar minded, and, you know, he's taught me a lot, and I've taught him a lot, and he was like the perfect training partner to be with. Do you know what I mean? It was wicked. But him and his missus wanted, his missus wanted to move back up to Scotland, so he was leaving. And I was like, okay, I was a shame. I'm sure they'll repurpose the studio. He goes, well, do you want it? Do you want to kind of take it over from me and like look after my clients? Because I can't exactly take them with me. Well, this is before all Zoom classes and this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, wicked. So I gave him some money for some of the kit because he couldn't take it. And I gave him like kind of a handover fee and just was there for a couple of years and made it my own. And it was awesome having your own studio. And it was like, I was very, very fortunate. I built a good following from there. Unfortunately, got to a point where I had to leave because they were repurposing the building because they wanted to do it more for the golf club and this, that, and the other, and whatever. And I just kind of fell into going into my PT studio. I was renting some other places, and then one of my clients said, "Oh, you should go to this my PT studio because they've got classes and that. It got a lot of facility." And I met up with the owners, Tom and Danny, and just been there ever since. Really, ideally, down the line, some point, would love to get my own place again. But for what it is right now, it's just Body Rock, and I've met my friend James, where I've kind of like revamped. Like I've still got Body Rock, that's still like my baby, but I'm really excited about the new project that James and I are going to go through, where we've created RPT, so robust performance training. So it's kind of like a new blend, like another dimension that him and I ideally are going to start making classes together, boot camps, and have just a different string to the bow, which is quite cool, And they've got to say, the name came up because of Helen, with her beautiful, like Vixie, like a beautiful mind came up with the name Robust, and we just filled in the rest. So it was just a really good name, like Robust, and we'll read on it, and that's what we do now. But basically, just training. Doesn't matter what name I'm under. I'd love to like help anyone with PT and stuff like that. And I'm very lucky because I do love my job, and I think that's half the battle with whatever you do. Like, I get up at 4 a.m. I'm there at 5. I think, is it worth it? And I go, yes. Because obviously I'm getting paid well. I'm where I'm at or wanted to be at, of charging the amount I believe, I know I'm worth, because I give you 110% every time with every single client. And I know I'm providing for my family, and that's what it's all about.
I think the most important thing is you're getting results, right?
Exactly.
Getting the results.
Exactly.
So it speaks for itself. And before we move on to other subjects, I did want to quickly touch on you did a boxing match as well. How did that come about?
Because before I went to my PT studio, I was renting space at Dynamo Boxing Gym, and the guy who owned it was Martin, and just got chatting to him really. Just said, look, I'm looking to rent the space, have you got it? And they just got friendly with him, and basically said, look, you should come and do a bit of training, and at the time I was playing with like kettlebells and weights and everything like that. So my so-and-so called fitness for the sport, like you're saying, catch the 5K. I tell you what, I took a boxing session with Martin. Honestly, he literally ruined me. He ruined me, because obviously I was at the time I was quite heavy. I was about like 110 kilograms at the time. I was like quite strong, sturdy, and then trying to bounce on your feet all that time with that weight, where you're not used to bouncing or running or anything like that, and trying to throw your hands. I got to like the end of the session, I was like punching like Mr. Burns out of The Simpsons, like I'll thrash you with the inch of your leg. Like this, I felt like so pathetic.
It's remarkable when you're actually trying to hit pads and stuff. So I do. I haven't done it for ages, but before COVID, I used to train with a friend of mine, Kevin. Big shout out to Kev. He was doing some amateur boxing, and there's a few like pros that go to his gym and stuff. So he would come and hold pads for me, and then we'd like have a little spar and stuff like that. Because I'm not technical, but Helen will probably tell you, like, I can have a fight. Do you know what I mean? This is one of them. I've got a head like a rock. Do you know what I mean? I don't get hurt, so I just steam forward and throw my hands. But I was like, I remember one of the first times, because I'd done I had a brown belt in jiu-jitsu when I was a kid.
That's good.
So yeah, I did training when I was a kid, but obviously since then, nothing regimented, nothing professional or anything like that. And obviously, cardio, ever since I stopped doing it all back in like 2013, 2014, like out the window. So the first session I was there with Kev, and he was like holding pads, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really fun. It's like 6 a.m. We both got to drag ourselves over the road and blah, blah, blah. We're just there, and like, I'm just smacking pads, like smacking, and he's going, mate, he's like, you hit really hard, but you are going to be like dead in the next 40 seconds.
Wasting energy.
I did not realize just how tough it is to hit hard for more than like a minute. It is
Can't.
so brutal. It is just
It
rough.
can't. Like amen to that, man. Like, so that's why I thought I'll just finish in one punch, And obviously, when it comes to the train, it's not like it's like a dance. You have to kind of hit the shots and know when to strike at the right point. And
you have to move as well, otherwise you're going to get hit.
Mate, I was Stacey, like he was kind of like my training partner, and big shout out to him. Like, that guy is an animal. I mean, Stacey's an absolutely fitness machine. He's just obscenely fit, but he was fantastic taking me through my camp, and he I was so glad I was sparring with him, because I'll tell you, he rocked me so many times. Like, he can hit like iron, and a couple of times I felt like my spine go. But and I'm not like a small guy, but it was good, because when I got to like the white collar fight, when the guy like kind of caught me, I was like, that's nothing. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously adapting and getting used to getting hit, because if you're not used to getting hit, it's a massive shock.
Yep.
But after that brutal camp, when I got to it, I was like, wow, this is all right. Obviously the conditioning for it, so they're very, very good. Boxes, gyms, and all that. You got to utmost respect for boxers. Like, the fitness is ridiculous. The one thing I would love to try is mixed martial arts. You're saying UFC, and it was kind of like, I was wondering if they do like white collar stuff like that, because I'll be well up for something like that.
There's some that you can do. You can go and train for like 12 weeks, and then they'll put you into an amateur fight. I would suggest training for a lot longer than 12 weeks, just knowing knowing
so
jiu-jitsu and knowing judo the way that I do. The jiu-jitsu I did when I was a kid, it was almost called vale tudo, which is a Brazilian style of street fighting. So it incorporates jiu-jitsu on the ground, but it also incorporated punches and kicks and judo throws as well. So it was almost like a precursor. The vale tudo was a precursor to mixed martial arts. So obviously UFC was around by the time I was doing it, but that was what I did. And I did it for, I think I was like 9 when I started. I did it till I was like 16. But I would recommend, if you were going to try and do it, train for a while, and probably go to specific classes for different things as well before you do. It's a bit time consuming. There's a guy that comes on my podcast, Paul S. He was on episode 5, and he's a good friend of mine. He trains under a guy called Wesley Play, who was a music producer who had some big hits back in the day, but he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he used to fight for UCMMA and a few other organizations, and he runs a gym that's owned by the Gracie family, Gracie Baja Gym. There's quite a few of them around. But yeah, he says to me, like, my friend Reese obviously trains there as well. And he also trains in Muay Thai, and Reese says to me, he's like, jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai for a workout, oh my God. Like, it's just like nothing you will ever do. It's funny because I spoke about the body coach earlier. He went over to Conor McGregor's gym in Ireland and trained with McGregor's trainer, and he's obviously like, he's like a fitness fanatic, and he came out of that gym like, I have never ever in my life experienced anything like that, just from a grappling perspective. Like, you cannot imagine the cardio output of having someone that weighs 200 pounds on top of you, trying to hold you down to the ground and grab you. You're trying to get out. It's insane. But yeah, I would recommend, like, you could definitely go and do it. There are definitely courses I've seen advertised online where you train for like 8 to 12 weeks, and then they'll match you up with someone of a similar ability, and they put on shows and stuff like that. So it does happen.
I'm definitely going to be looking into that, man, because I think that's going to be my next niche. I think golf is too much of a frustrating sport. Like, I've snapped most of my clubs before I get to the end.
Jiu-jitsu is fun though. Jiu-jitsu is great. Like, people who don't understand it or respect the sport or don't really put the effort into understanding it, like, it's so fascinating. And it's also, you will never meet anyone in a jiu-jitsu class who is an arrogant prick, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because at some point, even if they're like a black belt, at some point that guy or that girl has been choked unconscious or choked or to the point of having to tap out or having their arm bent to the point of like hundreds, thousands of times a year. And that you learn humility in a sport like that. So it's a little bit different to other things. Whereas, yourself being in the gyms, you've always got tossers walking around, do whatever, like, my arms are too, like, they can't fit next to my body, this kind of stuff. You will never have that type of ego in an MMA gym ever.
Yeah. That's just, I can't wait to give it a go then, man.
No, definitely. It's worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to hook you up like after this and give me some contacts and stuff. Like, I'll look around here, but then maybe going to London or something like that. For sure. That's definitely what I would like to give a go. But the boxing was tough. going back to like the boxing. I mean, that all that kind of fitness. I love UFC. You know, as I said, I've done some karate, and when I went to university, I did a bit of Aikido and stuff. And but it's not like UFC. I love watching UFC because if you ask me as a spectator sport, I'd always watch UFC more than any other sport because it's so technical. Like anything can happen, and obviously people got the strengths and weaknesses, and it's like, you know, kind of real life kind of superhero fighting sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So
I think boxing's more mainstream because it's like
history.
It's not just that, but it's also like who can run faster. You know what that is. You can watch that and you can go, right, that guy's going to run, that guy's going to run, and we're going to see who's faster. With boxing, it's like that guy's going to punch, that guy's going to punch, and we'll see who's going to win. So it's very easy for people to understand. With MMA, very different because it's like, okay, well, like someone like Conor McGregor's going to go out and he's going to spin kick your head off, or he's going to catch you with a left hand or something. Whereas someone like Khabib's going to come out, he's going to pick you up by your legs.
Oh, Khabib is amazing. I've seen that video of him like wrestling the bear.
Yeah, legendary.
It, man, that guy. And when he fought Conor McGregor, he just schooled him, mate.
Yeah, because his style is different. So when you're watching boxing, like, so people looked at that fight and they were like, "Oh, Conor this, Conor that," and it's like, no. It's like you don't understand what happened in that fight. Like it's something you don't get. So when people say to me, "Oh, I can't watch UFC," it's like one guy's laying on top of the other one. For me, when the fight gets down to the ground, the fact that I've done jiu-jitsu, I've done like this, that, and the third, like, that's the most exciting part of the fight for me. When someone picks someone up by the legs and they're on top, and I'm like, literally, I'll sit there with friends that don't really watch UFC, and I'm like, okay, watch where he's going to put that leg there, and then he's going to put his arm slightly under there and grab that wrist, and it's just like, and then all of a sudden the guy gets choked out, and they're like, how did you know he was going to do that? I was like, because that's the sport, like that's the whole point. Like, it's as a spectator sport, you're right, it's brilliant.
It's amazing, the physical chest of it. Do you know what I mean? And that's where conditioning and the mind to keep your wits about you in that kind of sport is phenomenal. Like, and you know, that's where you lose your wits. So if you lose the finish, that just shows how fit those guys are, and it's incredible. Have you ever seen Kingdom? Kingdom, this series, Netflix.
Is it the Korean
Kingdom
series?
No. It's the American one. Like, it's all about cage fighting and stuff like that.
No, I haven't.
And what's his name? Frank Grillo is in it. The guy who's like in Captain America, the bad guy there. And mate, it's freaking awesome. The first season's really, really good.
I know, because I'm thinking there's a series on Netflix. I think it's called The Kingdom, and it's a Korean series about zombies.
Kingdom. Yeah.
That's sick.
No, just Kingdom.
Okay.
Kingdom, mate. No, you have to watch Kingdom, 100%. The third season's like, they won't do another one, but watch the first one. It's wicked. You love the characters, and you'll love Jay. You watch it and come back to me and see who's your favorite character and what you think of Jay.
For sure, okay. For sure. One I'll recommend for you is something I've mentioned on the podcast as well before, was a series called Glow. I don't know if you've ever seen Glow.
Oh no, I have seen.
You and Helen would love that.
I've seen the advert of that. I have seen that.
It's about women's. There was a women's pro wrestling company in the 80s. It was before women's wrestling was really a thing. But these girls, they're like, a couple of them are failed actresses, and they got together and they just did this roadshow called Glow, Glamorous Ladies of Wrestling. It's all based on a true story. I hadn't watched it, although I was a massive pro wrestling fan. I hadn't watched it until very recently, and I went around Joe's one night, and she was like, "Oh, let's just stick this on," and I was like, "Oh, I love wrestling, and I know the actual story of Glow. I watched old Glow episodes. I know what it's about." So we watched that. Brilliant. Like, you could both sit and watch it without even being fans of wrestling and really love it. So that's one I recommend for you. So we're on the subject, and you briefly mentioned Captain America there. So a shared passion of ours is, I think you definitely more than me, but the love of superhero movies, but Marvel movies in particular. I had a conversation on episode 3 of my podcast, and the guy that I had on is a guy called Simon Harkness, and he works for It's Gone Viral. So he's interviewed a lot of like celebrities and stuff like that. And we had some fun stories about him and Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron and a few other people, which was pretty dope. But we got into the conversation of superhero movies, and he's not a massive Marvel fan, but he does like, he was a big fan of like Dark Knight and Joker, obviously the DC side of things. Joker for me was, just out there, just a different level compared to anything else that's ever been made with regards to comic book movies. But with Marvel, I've only seen you once briefly since Endgame came out, and we were in a club, so I couldn't really talk about it. But what was your thoughts on how the story wrapped up? Because I thought Infinity War was probably the better film, but I loved Endgame. And I actually went at midnight on the night it came out in my Captain America t-shirt.
Is that when you nearly
Yes.
And I sat and watched it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you just heard that. So yeah, you know, that scene where...
Sorry, I've just walked in the room and I've just heard what you said, and there was a point that Ben jumped up the whole of the middle of the cinema and went, "Oh my fucking God! Oh my fucking God!" And he literally pissed his pants. And it's when fucking
Captain America gets Thor's hammer. He's like,
yeah.
Yeah,
the whole cinema did it.
Smash him up.
He's like, "I've got fucking goosebumps. I knew it. I fucking knew it." I love honestly, that scene, the end fight scene. Honestly, even today, I watched that movie, and because obviously that was a culmination of like 10 years of watching it, you know?
Which is crazy in itself. The project in itself to do that is nuts. Because it's not like making a Star Wars trilogy. You're talking about making 7 or 8 different franchises that all have each other's characters in them, and it brings it all it's insane. But yeah, you're right. The bit that done it for everyone when I went to the cinema, as I say, at midnight, and I sat and watched it. It was packed. Like I go to the View in Fulham because it's cheap and it's like not far from me. Usually when I go, it's like half empty most of the time. You know, it's never that busy. Every single screen was sold out. The foyer was rammed. There were people dressed up. Like, it was insane. I loved it. I went on my own.
Yeah.
But that bit where you see the hammer rise up and then fly, and you're like, I know where that's going. But the other bit that got the big cheer was when he finally says, "Assemble."
Yeah,
and it kicks off.
Yeah. Oh man, see, I'm getting it now.
Yeah.
Getting now, just thinking about it. Honestly, that movie. You're right. I think that scene, because 2/3 of that movie was solving the problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Of it.
Yeah.
That last third, fuck me, what an ending! What a fight scene to the end, and everyone had their part. I mean, you know, like even all the girls coming together and stuff, like that. All the girls are, oh, she's not alone, and then all the girls come like Dora Milaje, you know, like they are sick, and I just love it. And then just how they kind of like simulated like American football. It's like, Clint, give it to me, like Black Panther takes it, and then the Spider-Man gets it, and someone else gets it.
Do you know what was really good about that scene? I don't know if you remember it, but in Civil War, there's a scene where obviously Clint is about to fight, and he's you know, where they have like the main fight at the airport, and he's fighting with Black Panther, and he goes to him, "I'm Clint, by the way," and he goes, "I don't care." But then it calls back to that when the next time they see each other is in Endgame. They realize they're all on the same side. He's like, "Clint, give it to me." It was like there was it's little moments like that in them films that there's connections there that you completely forget about. But yeah, Endgame for me was fantastic. I do think, as I say, I think Infinity War was probably
the better whole movie.
And the scene in Infinity War where Thor turns up with Rocket and Groot and just destroys everything was great. But yeah, Endgame, I think it was a perfect way to end the phase, you know, like with especially with the ending for Captain, like, which was, you know, like that was the emotional like tiny bit at the end. But it's like the film just 3.5 hours went really, really quick. To me, it went really quick.
Just totally engrossed in it. It was amazing.
It definitely did. When after the battle, when you come down off the high and you have the funeral and everything, it just like it did seem to just like go on and on and on. But it was like they all had great endings, like Cap and obviously Iron Man. But there was so much that it then gave the continuation of Thor being with the Guardians and. It was just so many different little things of it, and yeah, man. But for me, out of the entire franchise, for say, you know, that because we could talk about the massive umbrella that is Marvel, and there's, you know, you could talk about X-Men and you could talk about Deadpool, and obviously, you know, we could talk about X-Men and everything else for hours and hours. But in that particular phase, for those 10 years, for that particular, you know, 4 Avengers movies stories, what were some of your favorite movies from that time?
Captain America, Winter Soldier. That is literally like mustard. That was a real, apart from the 2 end movies, I think the first Iron Man set the scene with everything. Yeah. That was an incredible movie, and they took a big risk coming out, doing that.
Took a big risk having Robert Downey Jr. in it, but he was perfect.
I mean, he is Iron Man.
Yeah,
he is. He literally, that could, I mean, that role must have come in a point of his life where he was settled, you know, he was ready, because he was like his missus, right, you need to sort your stuff out, otherwise I'm going. He goes, all right, I'm going to sort it out. Then literally his whole career changes. It's incredible. Even though it gets a bit slack, I'm a massive Hulk fan, you know. I know Ed Norton was like the first one, but I think he acted it really well, like that movie. And I'm a massive like Hulk fan. I think the storyline could have done a little bit better, but I like the fact he had Abomination in there and this and the other. When it first came out, I was like, oh my god, it was so much better than the Hulk one with Eric Banner in it. That one,
was rubbish.
That was awful. I was so scarred. I was thinking, how could you ruin like the Hulk for me? Because the Hulk was definitely one of my favorite characters. You know what surprised me? I thought one of the movies I thought were a bit more lighthearted. Ant-Man. I thought that was a lighthearted movie, but it was so good. Like it was just a very lighthearted, easy watching movie.
Yep. On the podcast I did with Simon, I said apart from the Jokers and stuff, out of the Marvel films, Ant-Man is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
because it's so funny as well. Like the Mexican guy, where he's like, when he tells the stories. So basically, right, I saw this guy who knows this other guy who does this other thing, and this guy does it. But the fact that he also punches people with one left hand all the time and just knocks them out, it's like a little part of his character that's just the Ant-Man films are so good. Like they really made me laugh. Guardians, I thought, was in a league of its own as well.
100%.
For me, probably those two. But yeah, I was a big fan of all of them. I think Winter Soldier, I think actually George St. Pierre from UFC was in it. He was one of the
he was Backdrop leaper. And I mean, once again, for like, if you even said like it's a superhero movie, but it was kind of like, it's not like Thor, it's not like Hulk, it's not like anyone, it's like he's just super fit, super fast, super whatever. But it was kind of like cool because it was all kind of the spy games and the Winter Soldier, you know, it's just like assassin, and just the fight scenes. That fight scene with him and the knife and like Falcon, that all that stuff is just like incredible. Great choreography. I'd say, what would you say is your? I mean, if you've seen them all, like, what would you say is your most anticipated movie you're going to look forward to in the next phase? Oh, also, sorry, go back. What do you think of Captain Marvel? Yes, I know. See, I said everyone says this about Brie Larson and all of the political things kind of ruin the character.
It does. Well. I think the thing is with Brie is I think she's super talented, and I actually think she's perfect for the role. I think she was really, really good, and I thought it was a very good movie. But yeah, she's just got. And I don't disagree with her politically. I think she says some things that are a bit silly, but I'm quite a left wing. You know, I'm not a particularly woke person. I wouldn't class myself as that, but I'm pretty much down with a lot of her values and stuff. But I just find her very unlikable. And I think when I've watched interviews of her with Chris Hemsworth and other people that are all there, you can tell that they don't like her. You can really tell that she's not liked. Yeah. In that scenario, and I thought she was perfect I thought her role in Endgame was really good when she turns up and makes the save at the end, and she wasn't the person to beat Thanos, even though she probably could have beat him single-handedly anyway. I did enjoy the fact that it was Iron Man. It finished where it started. I love that. But yeah, no, I mean, as a film, I enjoyed Captain Marvel, but it's not really up there for me. It was fun. It was perfectly okay for what it was.
Same.
Again, controversial opinion. I didn't really think Black Panther was that great. I thought it was very good, and I understand why it was a big moment for cinema. I'm, completely on board with more representation in cinema for women and for people of color as well. Absolutely fantastic. I see in the next phase, obviously, we've got the Legend of the Five Rings and stuff, which is very representative for Asian cinema, which I'm super looking forward to. Obviously, my partner is Asian. It's really cool to see that sort of representation, especially some of the actors that are going to be in it. But I didn't think Black Panther was that great. I just I thought, okay, this is a good film. Cool.
Yeah, I think Chadwick Boseman was an amazing actor. I really think he did. I think he did play the role. I think I like Black Panther, and I like that ethos and that. I think they've did a fairly good portrayal. I just think the storyline just like
it was basically it was Lion King. It was the Lion King. That's what it was. It was literally like a Marvel version of the Lion King. It was like, oh, my dad's Mufasa, he's the king of the jungle. Oh, my dad gets killed by, you know, and it's not my evil uncle.
On Earth takes the throne.
Like, and then I come back, and it's like, for me, I literally felt like I was watching Lion King, which isn't a bad thing because Lion King's great.
No,
but it's like, for me, it just felt like a direct copy of that, and I was a bit like, you know, it's okay. I really enjoyed Black Panther in Civil War. So when he turns up in Civil War, and I love in Infinity War and in Endgame, I love his partnership with Cap.
You
know, that scene in Infinity War where they're both running, and they're superhuman, and so they're like so fast, and they're miles ahead of everyone else. I was like, those two together, that is a dope combination. I love that. That was really enjoyable. But as a film, wasn't really feeling it. I think, you know, for me, Guardians, I think, really stands out. Ant-Man's probably my favorite just for the comedy value, but Guardians is up there as something very different as well. Really enjoyable.
They took a big risk on that one as well.
They did.
Like, because that was it was a fairly well known, like, within the comics, like,
wasn't well known mainstream,
but wasn't known. That's what I mean. Wasn't known very well mainstream. So to bring that kind of that whole background of like the universe and that, they did a phenomenal job on it. They really, really did. And I thought the human element about Quill being kidnapped when he was a kid, even though they've kind of retconned his backstory in the comics and that, left, right, and center. You know, I mean, it's just wonderful seeing on screen. Do you know what I mean? Like the things, like when I was a kid, I used to read comic books, you know, to have the escapism when I was getting bullied and stuff, and like playing with Transformers. I mean, when Transformers came out, even though Michael Bay's kind of butchered the old one, but have you seen the new Bumblebee one? That new Bumblebee
it was
one,
really good.
Was wicked when they're kind of like quite retro-ish, and it was wicked. But the Marvel movies are wicked, man. But I mean, I've got to say though, like, I don't know if you've seen any of the Disney Plus like kind of series at the moment.
I haven't yet. So obviously WandaVision's out. I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen what's the other one? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah.
I'm saving.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything then.
Okay.
I'll wait till you watch it.
I've seen the reviews haven't been too great. And to be honest with you, with spin-off series are a bit difficult. The Mandalorian was a fantastic spin-off series. Disney's done a great job with that. Really, really enjoyed it. Both seasons. I thought it was out of this world.
What happened to that Gina Cavani? Transformers, wicked retro Transformer. And what happened to the
Gina Carano? I've always liked her. She was in Strikeforce. She was a fighter, MMA champion and stuff. And she was Ronda Rousey before there was a Ronda Rousey. You know, she was fantastic. And I've always been a big fan. Unfortunately, she was doing some stuff that was quite divisive. Now, it's very weird. I think you can have opinions where, you know, I don't particularly like Tories, and I don't like people who vote Republican. I'm quite a left-wing person, but you can vote for those people if that's in your interest and that's what you like. You can have those opinions. The trouble with today's society is people take it quite extreme, and the stuff with Donald Trump and the whole stealing the election and stuff like that's where you're going into the extreme of politics. And you know, with regards to COVID and stuff like that, I can't remember exactly what it is that she's. No, I do remember what it was that she said. Basically, you know, when people were talking about, you know, the Republicans and conservatives in America are quite bad, they tend to be arseholes. The reality is they are, and they do. Like that, the insurrection on January the 6th proved that. You know, there's a lot of people on that side of politics. There's a lot of people on left-wing politics that are arseholes. Don't get it twisted. But there's a lot of people on the right of politics that are arseholes. And what they do is they play this really weird game where they say all this stuff, people complain that they say this stuff, and then when they say, well, you can't really say all that racist stuff, they go, oh, I'm being silenced, I'm not allowed to speak. But what she did is she took it to an extreme where she basically compared people saying that, hang on a minute, some of the stuff that the Republicans are doing and saying is quite racist and quite anti-democratic. She took it and started posting on social media about how, oh, well, now I know how the Jews felt in Nazi Germany. So she basically compared being a conservative person in 2021 to being a Jew in 1939 Germany. Now, you cannot compare people on social media companies or in big business saying, hang on a minute, we don't like racism, to being a Jew in the Holocaust. It just, you can't compare those two things. You just can't. It's insane to actually think for a second that you're going to say anything like that and go over it. That's what she did. She basically said that if you're a Republican or a conservative in 2021, you are akin to being a Jew in Nazi Germany and you're going to be persecuted and gassed. The reality is that's bollocks, because you've just had 5 years of a Republican president who pretty much said and did whatever he wanted and has got away with it and is now laughing and counting his money. So, the fact that she did that, and the reality is if you are working for a company such as Disney, and don't get me wrong, Disney are very, very strict and they're a little bit silly with their politics and stuff like that. It is what it is. But if you're working within a frame, what we were talking about earlier, adaptability. You can't work for a company and represent a brand if you personally don't represent that brand's values. It just doesn't work.
And she just bit the mouth that fed her as well. It's a bit silly, like, in that regard.
I mean, what I found was silly was when they fired James Gunn from doing Guardians 3. That to me, he was telling stupid jokes at a time in his life when he was just being an arsehole. He's not that person, and in the end the right thing happened and they brought him back on. But you see, it happens. So it's all very well and good having your freedom of speech, but there are lines where you just don't cross it. You can't compare, being white and privileged in 2021, having political views that have been widely accepted in the mainstream for many, many years. You can't compare being criticized for your political opinion to being a Jew in Nazi Germany. And that's what she did. And I completely agree with the decision to fire her, which is a shame because her character in A Mandalorian I thought was fantastic. Really enjoyed her in it. Like I enjoyed her in Deadpool. I think she's been great in Fast and the Furious. I think she's been great in everything that she's touched and done. She's a really, really talented person, and hopefully she sort of pulls her head out of her ass. But she was very much like anti-COVID and anti-mask and pro-Trump.
Having a bit of a diva moment. You would have thought her representation would have said take that down. And going back on the gun thing, that was like 10-12 years ago, wasn't it, where he was being asked for that. It's amazing. And even the guy from Shang-Chi now, he was getting like stick for court saying he didn't like so-and-so music, Nicki Minaj's music or something like that. Or then I was like, what? I mean, it's amazing. You can't put anything out there without someone finding out something about it if you're a celebrity.
And the thing is, it's not like you can't change and grow as a person. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate it if you're from an ethnic background or a minority or something. Like there's a guy that I really liked, MasterChef Australia. I was watching that last year, and there's a guy on there called Reynolds, super, super talented. It makes incredible food. It was just a master to watch. He was absolutely incredible. Some people dug up some stuff that he'd put on a bodybuilding website, like on a forum years ago, basically just slagging off gay people and saying some really horrible, disgusting things about gay people. Like quite vile, like sort of stuff that if he said it in front of you, you'd be like, mate, go away. Like it was really, really bad. But the difference is he was like an 18-year-old kid on a bodybuilding forum thinking he's one of the lads, just talking absolute shite. Like he clearly doesn't believe in that. He doesn't behave like that. He doesn't act like that. But yeah, they dug it up and they tried to crucify him with it. And for me, that kind of stuff to me is silly. Like so with James Gunn, the example is exactly the same. You can't dig up some stupid jokes that he made online for shock value to be an arsehole 10-12 years ago. Because if people pulled up the stuff that I said 10-12 years ago, I wouldn't like that person.
Do you know
it's
all about like rehabilitation, reform and growth. And unfortunately, like some people get like stigmatized for the rest of their life, and this is not, well, it's not right, is it? I mean, look at the it's going back to kind of politics again, but what was it about the police commissioner lately? And because he failed a drinking driving test like 30 years ago, he couldn't be like because of the law, he couldn't be like police commissioner. I'm like, what?
It's
30
bizarre,
years
isn't
ago.
it? Yeah, it really is bizarre. I think we shouldn't punish people, and I definitely, as I say, I'm glad James Gunn is back on board for Guardians 3. Is he also doing Suicide Squad as well?
Yes, he is, mate, and that does look mad.
Because the first one was like, I mean, the thing is, DC, the DC side of things, and it'd be good to get your perspective on it because I know you're a big fan of the genre. DC have done some amazing movies. My favorite superhero films are probably from the DC side of things, but some of them are just such a miss.
Okay. What's your favorite then?
It's probably Joker.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that was separate to all the other entities. I thought, unless they're gonna do it to Robert Pattinson's Batman.
I don't think they will. I don't think they'll tie it in, and I hope they don't, because I think Joker should be a standalone movie on its own.
Yeah, it should be. That was incredible.
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix was amazing.
So good, so good, so good. Yeah, we actually, if you go back and listen to episode 3, me and my guest Simon, we had a really, really great conversation about that. He actually went to like a private screening of it before it came out and everything, because of who he works for and that. So yeah, he gets to go. He went to see the new Spider-Man before it came out. He gets to see a lot of shit. Yeah. But yeah, for me, Joker's probably the best. But you know, then you're obviously looking at Dark Knight.
Trilogy, yeah, it's amazing.
That trilogy in and of itself is brilliant. So yeah, DC do and Warner Brothers obviously have the tendency to smack it out of the park, but you know, I didn't mind the Batman versus Superman. I actually enjoyed Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was
I did as well. I like that. I think that was a very good interpretation of it just got a bit crazy at the end but he is Superman. Do you know what I mean? You got to. It comes with the territory, but the growth of it was quite good.
Yeah,
I think the Batman versus Superman thing. In the comics, obviously he's smarter. Not smarter, but obviously much more resourceful. Batman is, and I think Ben Affleck did a good job as being Batman as well.
I was surprised. I was very surprised.
Honestly, because he gets a lot of slack. He does, because obviously, you know, his things outside of his industry and stuff. But I don't think he's a bad actor. I think the Good Will Hunting thing he directed is really good. So he knows what good talent and directing is. And I think he did a good job. But I think the directors then missed it on the Doomsday. And then I would think they missed it on the the first scene wasn't too bad between them. I just thought, no, it's just something missing. And I hated who's the guy who played Luthor? I mean, that was the worst cut. I mean, I don't he should be in a comedy and that's it. He can't do any, I mean, I sometimes I can't take his, and I know this sounds really bad, but in some movies, that movie, I couldn't take his voice. I just couldn't take him seriously. It annoyed me more than anything else.
I think that's one thing that Marvel definitely does better is casting.
Oh, yeah. I think, well, you say that. I think Henry Cavill was a good Superman. And Jason Momoa, I mean, come on. Every woman has become a DC fan just because of the...
Aquaman wasn't bad. As I say, they do some... You'd always watch the films, but for me, Joker stands alone, but it is a very, very different type of movie. I hope they never make a sequel. I don't want it to carry on. I want that to stand perfect as it is. I walked out of that cinema blown away.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
It was a beautiful piece of a movie. Do you know what I mean? That was a masterpiece, because there wasn't it was more the psychological element in it. Do you know what I mean? Of how someone just one bad day can...
Which was always the story. It had so much of there were so many little Easter eggs to the comics as well. So there's and to the animated series as well. So if you look in the scene where he's on the talk show, if you look in the background on the wall, it says the Murray whatever show. The writing on there is the same font of writing that they use for the Batman animated series and the comic.
Really?
Little things like that they added in, that loads of people that you have to watch it 2 or 3 times to go, oh wow, they got that from there. And they got so many different little bits and bobs, and there's names and references and stuff. And so it did stay true to being a comic book movie, but yeah, brutal. The scenes where he actually tops people and stuff, and the scene with his mum in the hospital, it's whoa. I was
graphic.
I knew through seeing early reports online, it's people this is not what you think it's going to be, but then you go oh wow. Oh wow. The big question is, and I have my own theory on this, the big question is, did he kill the woman in the apartment? The one with the little girl, Sophie I think her name is. So she comes in, and then you realize that the whole relationship's been in his head. He's not really dating her, and she comes in and finds him in the house. But then you don't see what happens. You don't know what happens.
I think knowing the Joker as the character, I reckon he did.
It's an interesting one. I think as a creative choice to not show it, I think was
very good,
brilliant, because first of all, it leaves you under the impression of like, okay, he did, and he probably killed the kid. It was brutal. That's why they're never going to go there. Or it's also like, maybe he didn't, which would mean it's a flaw in his character, and he's not quite the Joker yet, and that's why they didn't go there. You know, like it's so clever played on it. And,
I mean, it's brilliant. It's very good, because it keeps questioning, and that's what makes the movie interesting, is when everyone's got their own opinion on what would have happened, which is great, you know, because
even to the final scene
in that point, you know,
even to the final scene where they're in the prison and stuff, and he's having the interview with the shrink. It leaves it open as to like, did all of this happen, or was this an American Psycho thing where it's all been in his head? You know, it's like for me it happened. You know, for me it happened, and he got arrested. So that's my theory. But who knows? You know, it's like it's such a clever film. It's up there with some of the best for me. Another one that surprised me in the genre, but it's on the Marvel side, was Logan.
Amazing. Yeah, that was in the Fox universe.
Brilliant.
That was honestly, I think that was one of the best send-offs you could have had.
So good
as a character. I mean, like Hugh Jackman, you got to shout out to him for a guy to
casting again.
Casting. Well, the thing is though, everyone didn't appreciate it at the start, because obviously, like Logan as a character, he's only like 5'6", he's short, he's stocky or whatever. But him being like 6'2" or whatever it is, but he acted the shit out of that man. I mean, he was awesome. Like even in that first like X-Men movie, he did it. But then, I mean, I know that he got like proper. I mean, well, it's not him who got slack, because he acted really well. But his movie, apart that Logan movie, and Patrick Stewart. I mean, sorry, Patrick Stewart is Xavier. He's perfect casting for that. I mean, he was amazing. But I mean, he played so well. I would love to see Ryan Reynolds and Logan, like, you know, like
it's always been, they've always teased it, haven't they?
They've always teased it. And I'm like, God, now like Deadpool.
Because they did it in the Origins film. So Ryan Reynolds is in the Origin film, and that's kind of Deadpool's.
Yeah, but the road just fucked that up, didn't it? That could have been so good, but
it was good at the end of, I think it was at the end of Deadpool 2 or the end of the first Deadpool. He actually goes back and kills that guy off, doesn't it? It's really, really clever. But yeah, that character in that film was very bizarre. That I enjoyed that film, but I do think them messing up Deadpool did kind of take the shine off of it a little bit. It was a cool story. It was. I
liked it. I did like it. I just thought, you know, they could have done more with the character Gambit, because Gambit was one of my favorite characters out of the X-Men like comics. Yeah. And there was one going to be with Channing Tatum. He was going to like take on the role, but then it's kind of always been like a non-starter for whatever reason. So I'm hopefully they can like get that one out. But it was good. It was more of a comic-y kind of book, like movie. Do you know what I mean? Than like a real world kind of movie, but which was cool. But yeah, they missed out the mark towards the end a little bit, I think. Yeah. But it was a good movie. It was a watchable movie, as you said.
Yeah, Logan I thought was brilliant. Obviously really enjoyed the Deadpool films. Some of the later X-Men films, Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix and stuff,
that was shit. That was See, the thing is though, how can you go from X-Men First Class, one of the best like X-Men movies they've ever done, then you go to X-Men Apocalypse? How could you I just can't get, you had a pretty good cast and you did that. I don't know. It's amazing how a director can totally mess up a movie. They don't really like know the source material as well, and it's come up with a decent plot to the movie. You know, X-Men First Class was excellent.
Brilliant.
You know, I thought
brilliant film.
So
with it, the way they tied in the whole Cuba thing and everything else was fantastic. Really, really good. What's your opinion on the new Spider-Man movies and Tom Holland in general? Because I've seen a story somewhere that they're going to be merging the Spider-Mans, so it's going to kind of merge with Into the Spider-Verse, which would be cool. But they're also going to be like bringing in like Andrew Garfield again, and it's all going to kind of get a little bit convoluted, which is interesting in and of itself. But Tom Holland divides opinion. I think he's a fantastic actor. It's a bit of a weird choice for Spider-Man. It works. Clearly it works because it's super popular. But the first film, like the very first film, I thought it was great. The last one with Jake Gyllenhaal, a little bit weird.
Yeah. I thought the second movie sucked. I think they had good elements into it. I think Tom Holland fits the mold of Disney. He's he's a cute kid. He's going to sell and this, that, and the other. I'm a bit contentious about this in the fact that I think Andrew Garfield is the best of the three Spider-Men. Personally, as the look, and also in that movie, Tobey Maguire tried to be sarcastic and funny, but in Spider-Man, in the comic books, he's always joking, he's always taking the piss. But Andrew Garfield did it the best. So as like the actual casting for the actual character, even though the movies weren't the best, I think Andrew Garfield was the best of the Spider-Man. Tom Holland, I think, is an acceptable Spider-Man.
But he is kind of supposed to be a kid. He's kind of supposed to be a child version of what he's supposed to become, because he has that, not necessarily a sense of being sarcastic and witty like Spider-Man, but you can see it's in him. He's always got something to say. He's always saying something silly, but not quite intelligent. He's not quite there. So you could see him as a grown man. You could see him forming that, obviously, as the character progresses. But it depends how long he sticks around doing it, I suppose.
It will stick around a long time. I mean, if like Chris Hemsworth sticking around as Thor for 10 years, he will stick around that as much, because Chris Hemsworth as Thor is perfect. But like with Tom Holland, like I don't mind it. The first movie I thought was excellent, personally, because if you look at his growth, he's got it. They didn't faff around because there's been so many origin stories of Spider-Man.
Michael Keaton was great in it as well.
Oh, it was excellent. He was so good. Honestly, he's a very underrated actor, I think.
Great Batman. He was a great Batman.
Just like the reveal where the girl. I still want to think one of the best as well. I think with the twist in the story, obviously his girlfriend was his. It was the bad guy, his dad. It was brilliant. I think that movie was very good, and the bit which is very iconic, because they did a reference back to the movies where he lifted the building, like we was trapped. And that was like a phenomenal scene where he had to dig deep in the willpower and all this and other to get out and stop him. I thought the first movie was excellent. Second, I like the idea of Mysterio, and I think Jake Gyllenhaal is a great actor. Yeah. I just think the storyline kind of missed the mark a little bit. I liked how they tried to do it, but because obviously how else are you supposed to get Mysterio? Because obviously he was creating illusions all the time, this and the other. But I don't know. I thought the fight scenes was too CGI-ish.
I think. Very silly, very silly. You mentioned Jake Gyllenhaal. Obviously, he's got a connection with Heath Ledger from another film. So going into that quickly before we touch on the new Marvel stuff, with regards to people who've played the different characters, obviously we had the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland comparison. Who do you think was the best Joker out of the four? I was going to say the three, but there has been four. We can't really count Jared Leto as Joker, but big him up anyway. It's tough, right? I think because
that's a hard one.
I think what's really difficult to break it down for me when I've had this conversation is they all played a Joker at different points. So, Jack Nicholson kind of plays him when he's already a criminal, but then becomes, messed up and is the Joker. Heath Ledger is like 20 years into being the Joker. There's no turning back for him at any point. And obviously Joaquin Phoenix plays him at a point where he isn't the Joker. He's never done anything wrong in his life. He just is a simple guy with problems, so it's so difficult to break them down. And whatever you say, you're going to upset someone because someone else is going to say, no, it's not. It's the other one.
I think as like kind of the development of a character, Joaquin Phoenix, is the best. The evolution of a character is there, I think. But I still think the best Joker, in my opinion, is Heath Ledger. Like, as in, he is that. I just think he just brought such power to the role in that he was just a villain. Do you know what I mean? He was wicked. Jack Nicholson, he's a good actor, but for me, it didn't really resonate. It was almost like you knew he was acting. And I know that I don't want to be disrespectful to it, but Heath Ledger acted the shit out of that role.
I think
he was the one. But Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, I think they're on level par. But then who's the third one? Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, yeah.
Like, she absolutely loves it. But I can't wait to see him in Morbius. That looks like a good movie.
That looks good. That does look good.
That looks like a good movie. It's got to be Heath Ledger as the full-fledged Joker. And I think Joaquin Phoenix is in the development. They're very, very close. Jack Nicholson, yeah, and then Jared Leto. I think he was too rushed.
Yeah, he was barely in.
He was too rushed. You couldn't fully fledge out his character when he was in it. Yeah. So I felt sorry for him in that regard. So I can't really comment on that.
I think the thing with Heath Ledger is he was so immersed in the character, but he also didn't have to. I think with Joaquin, he had to play a transition, and he had to show how to go through and how he became a Joker. Whereas with Heath Ledger, he went in just had to be a psychopath. Like he just had to be that bad.
And he was a Methodist actor as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So like, can you imagine like how
live the role,
live like that?
So on the other side of that coin, who's your favorite Batman?
Man, that's tough. Not Val Kilmer, definitely not. And
definitely not Clooney.
No, not Clooney. That's what I was going to say.
What's really sad about Val Kilmer is Val Kilmer's actually a terrific actor, but he just should never have been Batman.
No, because he's blonde for one. You know what I mean? Like, terrible. Michael Keaton is such a good actor, but it's got to be Christian Bale for me, mate. I can't. The Batman trilogy is the best set of movie like superhero movies of all time. I'm sorry, those three movies as a trilogy, amazing. Yeah. Every single one of them smashed it. You can look at the Blade trilogy, and obviously there's very, I love Blade.
I love Blade as well, and I am looking forward to the new Blade as well.
Oh, mate, like what's his name? Mate, I can't wait to see it. But Wesley Snipes, I love that trilogy, except for the third one. The third was a bit, but that I love Blade as a character, but Batman, that is the best. That's the best, 100%. So it's got to be Christian Bale for me.
Yeah, it's great. The different dynamics of the different villains as well. So he had Ra's al Ghul in the first, and and then it's obviously it's Joker in the second, and then it goes to Bane, and Bane's not even his real enemy in that. It's like Bane's like a sideshow, but he's this super. What was your thoughts on Tom Hardy as Bane? Because a lot of people slandered it, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was
brilliant.
Really good.
I really have you ever seen the film Warrior?
It's the cage fighting one as well.
Yeah. Oh, mate, like I really rate Tom Hardy as an actor. Yeah, I do. I really do. I think he's.
Venom.
And Venom, he was really good as well. Yeah,
I enjoyed Venom a lot.
I really like Venom. I really liked him as the character. I think he's a very, very good actor. Yeah. And obviously, you get that mask all the time. Almost like, and you speak to. Like almost like didn't know it was him as well. It's like, what do you decide? And it's like, it's funny how he came up with all that. But he was a wicked. I really rated him. I really liked it. I don't know why people didn't like it, because he played the role. Do you know what I mean?
I thought it was great. Great. Catwoman, I was a bit torn on. I thought she was good, but she's no Michelle Pfeiffer, so.
It was Anne Hathaway, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Harlequin. Yeah, that's my celebrity crush. Margot Robbie. Yes, she's got Jared Leto, and I've got Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Oh my god!
You two are trying to play wife swap with the Joker and Harley Quinn. That's an interesting dynamic.
He called me Rixie Quinn.
I call her Rixie Quinn. You are nice. Have you ever seen that? What was that app? Because you put your face on a character app, and we put her face on the face app with Harley Quinn, and oh my god, I was like, baby, definitely wear that for Halloween. That is hot.
Sounds like she's gonna have to wear that for the wedding. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, that's wedding night, mate. That pretty sure will look like that at the wedding night, the way you guys party. Christ.
I'm coming with my missus. I'm not coming with my friends, so I'll probably be more behaved on the night. But
you know that won't stop Rixie. You know that won't stop.
He knows what I'm like.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like,
But, speaking of the future, obviously wedding plans. The future of Marvel. What are you most looking forward to coming up? Because speaking of, I completely forgot they're doing a Venom 2.
Yep.
I'm
mate, let there be carnage.
Yeah.
That looks sick, mate. I mean, I'm so excited for the future, and it's lovely being a comic book fan for so long and seeing them produce a lot of this stuff. And the only thing, I know, and I think the inclusion of a lot of things in LGBT and stuff like that, I'm all for it, but sometimes I find they kind of change too much, like for the source material.
Yeah, it can be a little bit forced.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like trying to make too much of a point. And when you watch the 2 Disney show series, tell me your thoughts on the Falcon Winter Soldier, like, separately, whatever. But it's a shame that, the movies and the series should be like an escapism. Don't get me wrong, I think all inclusion, so but don't slap it in your face too much,
Yeah.
But anyway, like, I think I'm looking forward to the Hulk solo movie, and hopefully they do really, really well in that, because I mean, Hulk's one of my favorite. I can't wait to say Hugh Jackman, because I would say the new Wolverine. I can't wait to see the new Wolverine in Marvel and see how they do with him. I think I'm looking forward to Ant-Man and Quantumania. Ant-Man was Quantumania. There's personally, I think they're so underrated, those 2 movies.
They really are.
I can't wait to see the 3rd one. I love them. So Paul Rudd, honestly, he doesn't age. He's just like doesn't age at all. He's amazing.
He is absolutely brilliant.
I can't wait to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I can't wait to see Thor: Love and Thunder. Those ones for me, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Black Panther 2 though, because they say they're not going to recast the role. Where obviously, like it's MCU, they could do whatever they want. It's not going to be like the 616 universe and all that. But I mean, some people are saying like they're going to bring Michael B. Jordan back, but then he's doing the new Superman movie. He's being the new whatever. Which, I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. But anyway,
the fact that they killed him off was a tragedy anyway, because he was great as Killmonger anyway. But
he was awesome. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan is an awesome actor. I mean, apart from him doing the Fantastic Four crap, that was terrible. But
people forget he was actually in The Wire as a kid.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was one of the. He was one of the kids that was living in the crack houses in the first season. I think he got shot or shot another kid. I can't remember now. But yeah, he was friends with like Pookie and all those guys in the first season. He was around. Yeah,
I'm gonna rewatch that. I love The Wire. I'm trying to think of the other movie I was going to suggest.
But I think with Black Panther, I think they're going to do. I think Shuri's going to be more of a main character in it.
Well, she took over the mantle, didn't she? In the comic book. She took over the bit, and then and then T'Challa took over like being the King of the Dead or something like that in comic books and whatever. So I'm looking forward to that. Fantastic Four. Hopefully, they will do a good job.
Yeah, because I saw the latest Marvel trailer, and at the very end of it, it's got the 4, and it's like, okay, like 3rd time lucky now, guys. Let's see if we can actually get this right this time, please.
And how funny was it that Chris Evans was Johnny Storm? You know what? He got a bad rap there. I thought he played pretty well as Johnny Storm. Do you know what I mean?
He's been great. He's been great in everything he's ever done. I don't know if you ever saw Not Another Teen movie back in the very early 2000s. He was the main guy in that, and he was brilliant.
Yeah, I know. Have you seen that other movie he did with the phone? Like he had to keep on charging his phone because someone was on the end of the line or something. Like, what was it called? Cell phone or something?
No.
And he actually, you got to watch that one.
He was in Knives Out. Have you seen that?
That was wicked.
That was really
Knives
good.
Out.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
So we have another Marvel fan here.
Yes, definitely Marvel fan. Massive Marvel fan.
You want to take these downstairs? Come on.
Be down in a minute, yeah? Be down in a minute, yeah?
Yeah, we'll wrap up pretty soon. But yeah, I am looking forward to new. I'm hoping with Blade. I know it's not going to be as violent as Wesley Snipes' Blade. So yeah, I hope they push the envelope with it a little bit and just say, right, okay, let's go for this, because it does work. I mean, there are other shows within Marvel that, like, I mean, Logan, for example, Logan was, I know it's slightly different, it's Fox Marvel or Sony Marvel, or, you know, it's a different branch, but it does work. We've seen the superhero audience really doesn't mind actually having some proper violence in it, you know. So
well, look at Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie. It was like, Jesus, this is, you know, that's not a normal superhero movie. It's like everyone's getting chopped up and slapped on, like, you know, the cars and getting crushed. And the thing is that there is place for it, because like the Hulu movies, why can't you have like certain separation and certain things, you know, like, right, this is X, you know, R-rated, and then when they come together, obviously you tone it down a bit. It's like, I think for the mature comic book fans and stuff like that is quite nice. It's a bit more realistic and stuff, but you know, tone it down for the ones the kids can go and watch. I don't know, but it's hard one to like kind of choose, isn't it? But a Blade has to have some, I mean, that and Morbius as well. Morbius would be an interesting one, because even though he's kind of like a Blade / like Spider-Man villain in the comics, but it'd be interesting to see how they portray him in this as well. I mean, the new Venom movie, as you said earlier, I can't wait to see like Woody like actually play Carnage, because he's a good actor. I really love him as an actor. I think he's really like multi-talented in like certain roles and stuff. You know?
He really is great. He really is great. It's interesting. We'll see what happens with it. But mate, I will obviously you've got dad duties and a kid to put to bed, so I will let you get on. How can people get in contact with you with regards to the PT stuff, and where can people look you up?
Oh yeah, I mean, you can hook me up on Instagram, BodyRockBen. See, I'm so bad at living my own thing.
They'll probably send you a load of abusive messages telling you that,
saying
that Joaquin Phoenix was the better Joker, or Jack Nicholson was no,
it's just like, it's just BodyRock _Ben on Instagram, or Robust Performance Training on Instagram. Give me a call, I don't care, like 078-151-82113, and just Google BodyRock Fitness or Google me and like get in touch, and I'd love to help if anyone needs any help. So
all good.
Always.
Mate, thank you very much for joining me on episode 13. Unlucky for some, but not for us. It's been a really good one. And, really great to catch up. So yeah, episode 13 of the Over the Hill podcast. Make sure you're following and subscribe so you never ever miss an episode. And coming up on the next episode, well, you're just going to have to follow and subscribe to find out.
Yeah.